if you think about it, it's pretty unbelievable. Last week of the college football season this year, that's depressing. Whenever the season started, I knew it, I said it, and yet even when it happens, I'm still blown away at how fast it goes by. Unbelievable. I cannot believe this is the last week of the season. Not gonna lie, it kind of depresses me this time of year. Holiday season, that kind of helps a little bit, but man, I hate it. My favorite time of the year is the college football season. But rivalry week, that's a good way to end the regular season, end it with a bang. I am watching Florida State. This is a pretty good game. I saw a little bit of the NC State North Carolina. That game went into overtime, and of course NC State pulled off the win. I won that pick. I'm part of a Facebook group, and we do picks every week. And one of my picks this week, I took NC State in the points, so I won that pick. So far so good. California actually scared UCLA a little bit, but what about North Carolina ending on a 2-game skid to end the season with 3 losses? I know they still have the ACC championship, so they could actually end the season on a 3-game skid and finish the season with 4 losses, 9-4. Not good. We'll see what happens. Maybe they can scare Clemson, and maybe it's a good game. I doubt it. They haven't looked good over the past couple weeks. I know Clemson isn't like super. Well, really, there's no team. Have y'all noticed this? There is no team that's like super elite that everybody's like, nobody's beating that team. I know Georgia's undefeated, but they've had a couple scares. Ohio State, they're undefeated. They've had a couple iffy games. Michigan's undefeated. They had a couple iffy games. TCU, they're undefeated, but of course they've had to come back on multiple games. So nobody has really separated themselves. And the last 4 years, there has been that one team where everybody was like, they're winning it. In 2018, it was Clemson. In 2019, it was LSU. In 2020, it was Alabama. And then last year, it was Georgia. So 4 years in a row, we pretty much knew at this point in the season basically who was going to win the national championship. There was a clear team that looked better than anybody else. This year, no way. I think this is going to be the most entertaining playoffs that we've seen in quite some time. We still don't even know who's going to make it. I know there's 4 undefeated teams, but if TCU loses in their championship game, they're probably out. Now, if Georgia loses, they're still in. And then in comes LSU as a 2-loss. What happens if LSU loses tomorrow to Texas A&M and then they beat Georgia? Do they put LSU in as a 3-loss SEC champion? Wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them. They would probably try to slide them at the 4 spot, and I don't know. They would try to make it make sense somehow, some way. I think at 2 losses, that would disqualify LSU, but, they're sitting there at number 5, so we know that the playoff committee doesn't think that way. I guess, the loss to Florida State didn't matter at the beginning of the year, and getting absolutely blown out by Tennessee, that didn't matter either. So, I don't know. I don't know anymore. Anyways, before we go on any further, if you haven't, please hit the thumbs up. Even if you don't like me, you don't like West Virginia, it just helps the video. It doesn't just help me, it helps you, because every time you hit the like button, it helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm, and YouTube suggests it more people see it and click on it, and boom, that's how you grow your audience. So we get more viewers and more people for everybody to trash talk back and forth. Remember, this is rivalry week. This is where the trash talk is at its biggest. This is where people trash talk the most. I live up here in the upstate of South Carolina, and, because of what happened last week, South Carolina has some chirping to do this week. I don't see them going into Death Valley and beating Clemson, but at the same time, I didn't see them beating Tennessee and putting up 63 points. They put up 9 touchdowns on Tennessee. How did that happen? I don't know. If South Carolina plays that way, like they did against Tennessee, then maybe they do have a chance against Clemson. And if South Carolina upsets Clemson, you talk about messing up the playoffs. I give Clemson a chance to get in the playoffs. I know some other things need to happen. But if that happens, then it's not happening. Clemson's definitely not getting in as a 2-loss ACC champ. So we'll see. We'll see. And I think South Carolina is good enough. 47 seconds left in the first half for Florida State. That looked like pass interference on Pouncey, but they didn't call it. So it looks like Florida State's going to have to settle for a field goal because they're at a 4th and 10. This might be a 30-some-yard field goal, something like that. So Florida trying to get some points right before halftime, and Billy Napier all over the refs. And honestly, I don't blame him on that one because, I think that was pass interference. Nebraska's win over Iowa. That's a good win for Nebraska. Now, hold on. I'm not sure how many wins they have. So, are they bowl? I don't think they're bowl eligible. On the road too. That's surprising. No, you're not bowl eligible. So, nice upset. Iowa. They're going to bowl. I think that probably knocked out Iowa for sure out of the Big Ten championship game. So you did play spoiler to Iowa. It's probably looking like Purdue, depending on what they do tomorrow. It's probably between Purdue and Minnesota coming out of the Big Ten West. Now that Iowa lost to Nebraska, so yeah, definitely played spoiler. But besides that, don't really have that much to play for. Now Georgia Tech, they go on the road and play Georgia. I think that spread's a little too high. I think Georgia Tech's better than that. And I don't think Georgia is the Georgia of last year. They're good. They're undefeated, but they're not dominating good. I would put that spread more like 3 touchdowns, 21, which that's still a massive spread. That's still a significant spread. I'm still predicting Georgia to absolutely hammer Georgia Tech, but I don't think Georgia Tech is that bad to where they deserve a 35-point spread. I mean, they just went on the road and beat North Carolina. You have to give them a little bit of credit for that. North Carolina is not Georgia. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is 35-point spread on a team that just went on the road to beat North Carolina. Not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. So I would probably take Georgia Tech and Georgia not to cover the 35.5. It's too big of a spread for me. I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong. But for me, no, I'm not feeling it. I heard some news today. I heard that Nebraska is closing in on negotiations of bringing in Matt Rule. Matt Rule. That's a good hire right there. I think Nebraska, man, if they can get in Matt Rule, I think Nebraska, their trajectory is looking really, really good. John Waffle, HGP, one of 2 resident Pitt subscribers to Golden Bluted. Thank you for the donation. Says, just reminding WU fans, Pitt is in a city. West Virginia Community College is in the middle of nowhere. Pitt fans on the rise. Well, at least we have our own stadium, so there's that. You can call us out in the middle of nowhere, out in the country, but we own that land, we own that stadium. We don't have to share it with anybody. So I'll take owning a piece of land out in the middle of nowhere over having to share a piece of concrete with a professional football team. That's just me. Other people may feel different. That's just me. All right, 34 seconds left in this particular game. Hold on, guys. I hate ESPN.com sometimes. No, I did not. See, this is what I'm talking about. No, I did not want to check the scores of the MAC. Sorry. No offense to any MAC subscribers. Florida did get that field goal, so they're up 24-21. Florida State has the ball. They're actually taking shots. Oh, he almost brought it in. 28 seconds left, and that was close. That was almost a good catch, and that might have put Florida State almost immediately in field goal range, but instead, now they're 4th and 10. Florida might have a couple of seconds to try to get in field goal range again. So we'll see. We will see. How's everybody doing this evening? Are y'all enjoying the last week of the college football season? I am. Yes, Missouri beating Arkansas. Wow. You know, so Missouri gets bowl eligible, right? And they're 6-6. They were the worst team in the SEC East as far as record goes. But if you look at their schedule, that Florida return man, he was trying to make some moves. If you look at their schedule, they've actually played a good season. They've had a couple of bad, like really bad games, but overall, Missouri, halfway decent team. I don't think they're quite as bad as what people thought they were, and still not a good team. Don't get me wrong, Missouri is still not a good team, but I mean they gave Georgia fits. They beat South Carolina. They beat Arkansas today. It's not bad. It's not bad. Last night, I already said my piece about the Neil Brown situation. But yes, I agree with everybody that's saying that we need to fire Neil Brown, because here's the thing. I know that West Virginia is waiting on a new athletic director and letting him look over the things. So if it's a timing issue and that's why he doesn't get fired immediately after the game, and it's going to be, after early signing period, that I understand. But for people to actually come out and say, no, he is coaching for 2023, like that gives no hope to us, the West Virginia fan base. And I am not okay with that. That's basically throwing in the towel before the season even starts. And by making that decision, which makes it make even less sense. Sorry, camera just shook because it's on the platform that I just shook. Sorry about that. That if you make that decision, that ticket sales are not going to be good next year. So I'm hoping that they're just waiting until after the early signing period to get a lot of these recruits signed in. And then, they know what they're going to do, but they can't do it until a certain time. That's what I'm hoping for. Hillbilly Skeptic, thank you for the $10 donation, says, the reason that Alabama and Georgia have had close ones and losses is not because they have regressed. It's because the rest of the SEC has improved. No Big Ten could beat top 4 SEC teams. Georgia, I think Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan would be close. But Alabama has regressed. I'm sorry. I have to respectfully disagree with that. Alabama has definitely regressed. Not just because they lost to Tennessee and LSU, but we saw some other games where they looked downright bad. I mean, they struggled against Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a really bad team. I'll say the teams in the SEC East have improved. The SEC East might be the better division this year. Think about that. How crazy is that? Kentucky, slightly worse than last year, but still a decent team. Missouri, they're going to a bowl. They're the worst team. Them and Vanderbilt. I don't know if Vanderbilt's going to get to a bowl. They got to beat Tennessee. But Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. But even Vanderbilt looks better. Vanderbilt is one win away from getting to a bowl. Blowing my mind over here. As bad of a record as Missouri has, they've given people some fits. South Carolina hammered Tennessee. South Carolina finally beat Texas A&M this year. First time ever. Even though Florida's not great, they're better. Of course, Tennessee, a much better team. I know we have to count the blowout to South Carolina, but even besides that game, the rest of their season, they've been a great team. Then, of course, Georgia, they're one of the best teams in the nation. There's no doubt about that. For this year, there's no argument. I do have Georgia as the number one team. No doubt about it. But if you're comparing them to last year's Georgia team, no, they are not as good as last year's Georgia team. Because if you look at Georgia's schedule last year, they absolutely bulldozed their way through their schedule. Nobody came even close. That first game against Clemson, where they won 10-3, that score was a little misleading. If you watch the game, Clemson could hardly pass the 50-yard line. Georgia's offense was moving the ball. They just weren't scoring, and turnovers and bad field position and all that stuff. But if you watch the game, Georgia was, without the doubt, the best team in the game. And then the rest of their schedule, nobody could touch them. And then the SEC championship game, y'all know my feeling on that. They laid down for Alabama to allow Alabama to get in, because after the SEC championship game, back to mowing people over. The entire season, the entire playoffs and national championship, they mowed everybody down except for the SEC championship. But overall, we knew that Georgia was far and away the better team. I thought Alabama was going to be the Georgia of this year because Alabama had a lot coming on defense, and they had Bryce Young coming back. I thought they were the team to beat in the SEC. I don't know what happened. I really don't. I don't know if it's an injury situation. I don't know if it's a position coach situation, but they 100% do not look as good as what they did last year. That's a fact. Ole Miss, definitely not as good of a team as what they were last year. The start of the year, their easier schedule, they started undefeated. What did I tell y'all? I said Ole Miss was going to end up with 3 or 4 losses, and that's exactly what happened. So I think the SEC East is the stronger division for this particular year. Hillbilly Skeptic, thank you for another $10 donation. Appreciate the support, buddy. Says, if losses prove Bama has regressed compared to Big Ten teams, which victories in the past couple of years prove Ohio State or Michigan could beat them, or Georgia? Rutgers, Illinois, Big Ten will get blown out in the college football playoffs. Understand what you're saying there. I'm going by what we're seeing on the field, and that's what I was trying to explain with Alabama. It's not necessarily how good the other teams have looked or have played. And yes, you got to count the 2 losses, but I think Tennessee and LSU are decent teams. So you can't base it strictly on the losses. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not basing it strictly on the losses. I'm basing it on what I saw last year to what I saw this year. And that's not me saying that I don't think they're good. I still think they're good. But compared to last year, they're not quite as good. That's the question, though, right there. Switching gears to the Big Ten, how good is the Big Ten really? Because Michigan State took the massive step backwards that I predicted. I predicted Michigan State was going to take a massive step backwards. That happened. Now, Penn State, top 20 team, but the 2 decent teams that they played as far as, top 10 teams, Michigan and Ohio State, they got beat handily. I do like the road win against Purdue. That was significant. And even though Auburn is bad, going on the road and beating them, a packed Jordan-Hare, that's a good win. So I was impressed with that. But other than that, I don't think Penn State's an elite team. So my question would be, how good is the Big Ten? I'm sticking by my analysis of the SEC. I do think that the SEC is not quite as good as last year. That didn't have anything to do with my opinion of the Big Ten. That's a whole different situation. So let's take the SEC. In my opinion, I think they're not quite as good as last year. Let's set that to the side. And now let's talk about the Big Ten. And I do think you have a point in that super chat right there. What wins prove that the Big Ten is better, or that they could beat some of the SEC teams? Tomorrow is what's going to kind of determine that, because if you look at their schedule, the Big Ten, top to bottom, they're not, especially the Big Ten East, you have Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. And then, of course, Michigan has played Penn State. Ohio State has played Penn State. So Penn State has played the 2 toughest teams. But Ohio State and Michigan haven't played each other. Besides that, Maryland, they're okay, but they're not great. Like you said, Northwestern, Illinois, the Big Ten West is a sham. The Big Ten West has hurt the Big Ten the past, 3 or 4 years. It's not good. So it's a tough comparison. I would say, if you want to compare conference versus conference, I would say that overall the SEC is a better conference than the Big Ten. If you want my opinion on Gold and Blued, who do you think is the better conference? I think the SEC is the better conference. But I think Georgia and Ohio State and Michigan, based on what I've seen and the way they play, are pretty close. Now, we'll find out in the playoffs who actually is better. But as far as conferences go, yeah, the SEC is better than the Big Ten this year. I would have to agree. And especially with the SEC East carrying the SEC this year. That's what's surprising. Hillbilly Skeptic says, an 80% Bama is still 2 times better than the Big Ten. That I don't agree with. I would say what I'm saying is overall, the SEC is better than the Big Ten. I would say maybe if they played on a neutral field, you can never count out Alabama, but we have to go by what we've seen and what their record is and all that's all we can go by and how they've looked. And Alabama does not look as good as what they did last year. They have 2 losses. They're not going to win the West. They're not getting to the SEC championship. So, I mean, for a rebuild year, that's still not bad. I mean, anybody would take that for a rebuild year. Arizona finally beats Arizona State in that rivalry, and man, they were definitely celebrating that. I think that was a road. No, that was a home win for them. A little bit of a scuffle there. So it's always nice to see these rivalries and how passionate even Arizona State. A West Virginia fan or people around me, Clemson fans, South Carolina fans, Alabama fans, we don't care about that, but they do, and you can see it on the screen whenever Arizona finally, they haven't beaten Arizona State in several years. They finally did it, and they are super happy about it. I can relate to that. Now, Oklahoma is not a rival, but we beat them for the first time since joining the Big 12. And even though we sucked this year, that one win felt really, really good. The only thing that could have topped that was if we had beaten Pitt in the backyard brawl to start the season. And honestly, if that would have happened, West Virginia would probably be going to a bowl. But that set us off to a bad tone of the season. Honestly, if we beat Pitt, we're probably beating Kansas. That's 2-0, 3-0 Towson, 4-0 Virginia Tech, and then lose to Texas. I mean, I think my prediction would have been close. And that's how much of a difference one game and mentally it can affect you. Because if you look at West Virginia from the beginning of the season to now, we do not look like the same team. Our defense, yes, our defense looks the same. It sucked all year long. But our offense has slowly gotten worse because the wear and tear on the season has just kind of, depressed them. The morale has gone down. Man, it doesn't matter if we score 35, 40 points. The defense is going to allow 50 points. And then JT Daniels try to force, passes because the receivers are dropping the balls. And so the last 4 games, the offense hasn't looked good. But if you compare this year's offense, the numbers to last year's, way better offense. But the defense was so much worse that it didn't matter. And that's why Neil Brown has to go. He can't put it together. And I understand the arguments that people are giving as far as, we have a lot of talent. We figured out the offense. Maybe if we make some moves in the offseason on the defense, that fixes that side. I understand that argument. The problem is I've gone to bat for this guy time after time after time after time. And if they give him another year and he proves me wrong, so be it. I would be happy if he proves me wrong. If West Virginia does indeed give Neil Brown another year and he actually proves me wrong, great. Fine. I'm okay with that. I'm not putting my stock into it. I'm not for it. I think it's time to move on. West Virginia hasn't even been ranked in the top 25 the entire time he's been at West Virginia. 4 years. West Virginia has not cracked the top 25 under Neil Brown. I have forgotten what it feels like to see a number beside West Virginia. 2018 is the last time I've seen any type of ranking beside West Virginia. I don't know what I would do if I saw a ranking beside West Virginia right now. It would be like a dream. That's how long it's been. And it shouldn't be that way. It's crazy. This is not, and I know people that like to talk trash. Well, you're always a mediocre team. What do you expect this West Virginia? No, we are not. The reason why we're mad is because we're not used to this. This is abnormal for West Virginia. Like, this is the lowest I've ever seen the morale of this fan base. The only time that I've seen it maybe a little bit lower is whenever we lost the backyard brawl in 2007 and missed the national championship. That is the only thing that can beat the morale of the West Virginia fan base right now. That's it. I mean, that's how low the bar is. We just want to get ranked to see a number beside West Virginia. That's how low we've sunk. It's pathetic. It's ridiculous. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, West Virginia fans, but until we decide that we want to spend Power 5 money, it ain't going to get any better. There is no, finding that great head coach that we can pay Group of 5 salary and he can lead us to the promised land and we'll be able to keep him. That doesn't exist anymore. There's too much money out there to be made. Even if you can somehow go out and find the diamond in the rough. If he starts having success at West Virginia, guess what? He's gone. Because we're still not spending the Power 5 money. That's what it comes down to. Until we start spending Power 5 money, we're going to keep looking like a bad, not even a good, a bad Group of 5 team. I understand why people say, maybe West Virginia should move to the AAC. They'd have success there. I understand that. With the product that everybody's seeing on the screen, I get it. I know that's trash talk, but at the same time, it reflects what we're seeing out there. This is stupid. You have to invest. They don't understand simple economics. In order to get a return, you have to invest. We are not investing. Now, we've invested into the football facilities. Those are great. But we haven't invested into the football coaching, salary, all that stuff. You have to invest if you want the return. You don't just, hopefully we get lucky spending, penny pinching Group of 5 salary. One day we'll get there. We'll have that magical season. We should, no. Liberty, UCF, and I know I keep mentioning the same names over and over. Cincinnati, Liberty, UCF, Kentucky, Kansas, probably Iowa State, maybe Arizona State, Illinois. I know for a fact Illinois pays their coach more than we do. They have a bigger budget for football than West Virginia. Even Kentucky. Well, Kentucky has a big budget because of basketball. No, that's a basketball budget. Basketball makes money. That budget goes towards basketball. I'm talking about football head-to-head. West Virginia should have a bigger budget than Kentucky. We should make more money than Kentucky when it comes to football. Why are we not investing into our football? This tells me that West Virginia is not all in. I love that motto that Clemson has, all in. And Dabo Swinney changed Clemson. West Virginia needs that person. We need that person that'll come into West Virginia and say, hey, guys, this is not going to work unless we start going all in. It's not going to work. And ever since Dabo's come in and they've established the all-in motto, what Clemson's built the dynasty. They won the ACC, 6-7 times in a row? Win the playoffs 6-7 times in a row? Won the national championship twice? He's proven you have to be all in if you want to win. West Virginia is not all in. There's no argument. West Virginia is not all in. All in is not what we're seeing week after week. John Marzullo says even a 10 to 15% increase in money goes a long way. Absolutely. 100%. Yes. We're talking a difference between, I don't know the exact salary of Neil Brown, but I think it's like right around $5 million or just under $5 million. Liberty pays Hugh Freeze more than that because of the pay raise they just gave him. I think he makes like $5 or $5.2 million. Liberty pays their head coach more than what West Virginia does. Let that sink in. That should not be. That should not be. It just shouldn't be that way. No, Liberty does not have, more boosters, richer boosters. No, they don't. No. The owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, huge booster for West Virginia. We have many wealthy boosters. Where is that money going to? And I realize you got to, funnel money into all the other sports as well. We built the new baseball field. We have a new Olympic sports complex. All that stuff is done. Now it's time to go all in on football, guys. Football's your moneymaker. And when you start making those New Year's Six bowls, when you start making the playoffs, when you start making the national championships, when you start making your conference championships, that makes money for your school and you can reinvest it. But if you don't get there, you can't make the money. How you get there? You make the initial investment. You can't skip that first step. Why is West Virginia trying to skip that first step? I don't know. It baffles me. It's like, we want to be considered, competitive, a top tier brand, but we still just want to pay our football coaches Group of 5 salary. That's silly. That doesn't even make sense. Jeez, I have definitely digressed from the subject at hand, haven't I? My bad, guys. Missouri beat Arkansas. Man, what happened to Arkansas? They were like a top 10 team to start the season. Top 10 team. They finished 6-6. Missouri gets bowl eligible. They're 6-6. Mississippi State goes on the road and beats Ole Miss. Knew that was going to happen. So Ole Miss ends the season 8-4. They started the season undefeated. What was it? 7-0. So they were 1-4 in their last 5 games. I warned Ole Miss fans that the last stretch of games, you're going to pile up some losses because Ole Miss did not look good against some of their earlier competition, even not so good competition. I mean, Troy, 28-10. Troy is terrible. They barely beat a so-so Kentucky at home, 22-19. Scraping by Tulsa, 35-27. What? And allowing Auburn to score 34 points. Nobody should allow Auburn to score 34 points. So the only win that they had in their last 5 games was at Texas A&M by 3 points. That's it. Yes, Ole Miss, 100% overrated. It is what it is, guys. And from what I'm hearing, that might be the last game for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. He might be moving on to Auburn. But Auburn has a backup. I'm hearing that Auburn will get either Lane Kiffin or Hugh Freeze. That's what I'm hearing. So we'll see what happens. I don't know which one they grab. And, if Lane Kiffin does move to Auburn, I don't think Ole Miss will give Hugh Freeze a second chance. So Ole Miss could go after a Matt Rule if he doesn't go to Nebraska. How interesting of a hire would that be? Matt Rule at Nebraska. Listen, Nebraska has everything they need except for a good coach. They have the football history. They have the brand. They have the stadium. They have the fan base. They have the money. They just don't have the coaching. You throw Matt Rule into a Nebraska situation, watch out Big Ten West. This could be the match to light the fire of Nebraska. That's all they need. They need the match. The Kinlan has always been there. The Haystacks have always been there. They couldn't find a match. I think Matt Rule could be that match, and Nebraska could be sitting really, really pretty if they do get Matt Rule. And from what I'm hearing, they're pretty close to signing him up. So we'll see. Pepsi break, guys. Honestly, I don't understand why Florida hired Billy Napier. In my opinion, I think a high caliber brand like Florida shouldn't do the whole, try to get the best Group of 5 coach. I think they need to find a coach that's proven, that they can have success in the Power 5. Maybe go after a Luke Fickell. Could you imagine Luke Fickell at Florida? I don't know if they went after Florida or not, or if he was attainable. But, man, Luke Fickell at Florida, that makes too much sense when you think about it. I think he could have done great things at Florida. I think the biggest question, I think the biggest question is, when Luke Fickell moves on to the Power 5, who's going to hit the lottery and get him? How's that for a question? Because he will. He will. Luke Fickell is going to move on to a Power 5 school. Power 5 school. Who's it going to be? Will indeed says Auburn could be Auburn and Ole Miss could be looking at Matt Rule, because I know Auburn's looking at Matt Rule, or Luke Fickell, excuse me. That Ole Miss could be looking at Luke Fickell. I don't know if Luke Fickell would be a good fit for Ole Miss. I think Deion Sanders would be perfect. He's already in the state of Mississippi, and Ole Miss does have a little bit of that swag. I think Deion would fit well. I think Matt Rule. I don't think Luke Fickell would. But whenever he does move up, where is Luke Fickell going to end up? I know ultimately he wants to be at Ohio State, but Ryan Day, his job is safe. Unless, he goes on to the NFL, Ryan Day, he doesn't have to worry about his job. So, do I ingest any liquid that isn't Pepsi? Every once in a while, I'll drink water and Gatorade. I definitely drink Gatorade when I'm sick, but yeah, I mean, it really is mostly Pepsi. I mean, I know it's not good for me, but it is what it is, guys. That's what happens whenever you work at Pepsi for 4 years. You start getting free Pepsi, and then next thing you know, you're just drinking it all the time. That's what happened. But man, I really love that job. So wait, did Florida have the ball and they already had to punt in less than a minute? I missed something because it's 14:05 left in the third quarter, and they just kicked to Florida State. Did they just do a 3-and-out in less than a minute? What happened? That's insane. That's a terrible start in the second half. I don't think I've seen that bad of a start in the second half in a while. Yeah, Florida State has the ball because I know that Florida got the ball to start. What happened? Is anybody else watching the Florida? What happened? Did they really go 3-and-out in less than a minute? That's crazy. Tim Armstrong, that is the question. Will WVU pay for a name coach? That's the problem. West Virginia can't afford it. I know a lot of people think, oh, West Virginia's a poor state. West Virginia can't afford. West Virginia has some good boosters. They have some professional team owners that throw in massive amounts of money. I'm telling you, if this channel grows and it, turns out to be a huge success and I'm making big time money, I will become a big time donor of West Virginia. That is a promise. I will become a big time donor of West Virginia if this channel can turn into that. Now I know that's somewhat of a pipe dream, but hey, you have to have big goals. If you don't have big goals, then you're never going to go nowhere. I never thought that I would be at 12,000 subscribers in almost 12,000 subscribers at this time of my YouTube channel. And this is what I'm talking about as well. Fear keeping you from making good decisions. I think West Virginia's afraid of losing a lot of these recruits as well, as far as firing Neil Brown. Now, if you wait till the early signing period, then you don't have to worry about that as much. Wait till the transfer portal and all that stuff is over with. But I have a direct example of that. I could have started this YouTube channel years before I did, but I let fear, man, what if I fail? What if people think I'm stupid? Now I'm like, I hope people think I'm stupid because stupid is entertaining. Like, you don't think that when you're starting a YouTube channel. You don't think, oh, man, if they think I'm an idiot, they're going to make fun of me. I don't know if I can take that. Now I'm like, bring it on. I want people to make fun of me. Like, it's how it goes. Trolls is part of the business. Listen, if you want to start, if you're listening to me and you've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel, what I'm about to say, you are meant to hear. Are you listening? I am not talking to anyone in specific, but anybody in my audience I am looking at you. If you have been thinking about starting a YouTube channel, but you have let fear keep you from doing that, stop. You don't need a bunch of equipment. You don't need to invest a lot of money. You just need to start making videos. So if what I'm saying fits you, then you were meant to hear what I just said. If you've been thinking about it, just go do it. Bet on yourself and go do it. So many times I think every week, man, I wish I would have started this a couple years earlier. How far would I be now? You know? You just never know until you try it. There's the possibility of failing. Oh well, pick yourself back up. If you do fail, you just pick yourself back up. All right. Everybody fails. It's part of life. All right. So there you go. That's my advice for the day. Tulane does, in fact, prove that they are the best group of 5 team this year. They go on the road to meet Cincinnati 27-24. That one kind of surprised me. I thought Cincinnati, being the home team, that they would beat Tulane. Tulane's a good team. Remember, they did go on the road to beat Kansas State earlier in the year, and they are, without a doubt, the best group of 5 team in the nation as of right now. Now, let me see what the 10-win season, by the way. Congratulations, Tulane. So they will host the AAC title. Who are they going to play? What are the rankings of the AAC? I know they just beat Cincinnati. Does that knock Cincinnati out? But who else would they play? What, UCF? A little bit confused. Hold on, guys. Let me check the standings here real quick. So Tulane and Cincinnati are still there at 1 and 2. Does UCF hold the tiebreaker over? No, they only have 1 loss. And they beat Cincinnati, so it should be UCF and Tulane, even if UCF loses. So it's going to be UCF and Tulane will host it. So I think Tulane will win that. And have they played already this year too? Yeah, and Tulane lost 38-31. Wow, that's a rematch. So that's not a guarantee. Now, Tulane will get them at home. That was just 3 short weeks ago, so that should be an intriguing matchup. And Tulane will get a chance to avenge that loss. All right, 4th and 2 for, it looks like Florida State. It looks like Florida State's going to go for it. 4th and 2. What yard line are they on? That's what I'm trying to. How did everybody's Thanksgiving go? Did y'all have a good Thanksgiving? All right, so this is a 4th and 2 down on the Florida 32-yard line. So this would be like a 47-yard field goal. And some about Billy calls a timeout. He has no idea what. Dude, now you're giving Florida State more time to think it over, and they might have a better. I don't know. I don't like the defense calling a time. Like, you should, especially as much time as they took to call that play, they should have been able to not have to call a timeout. West Virginia basketball. Well, I think West Virginia has a good basketball team. The reason we lost to Purdue last night is because Purdue has some massive big men, and West Virginia just didn't have the size. I think Purdue is a Final Four team. I know we got handled. I think Purdue beat us by 12 points, so we got handled by them. But we have actual shooters this year, and West Virginia is back, so we're going to turn some people over. West Virginia will make the big dance. The question is, how are we going to do against teams that have bigs like Purdue? And there's a lot of teams out there that do have bigs like Purdue. Not as good as Purdue. Purdue, not only do they have bigs, they have good bigs. So it just depends on the matchups. But as far as the team, this West Virginia team in basketball is definitely better than last year's, for sure. We have shooters. We have hustlers. We have rebounders. I saw a lot of laziness on last year's team. I think there was a lot of me on last year's team. And Bob Huggins was not feeling that at all. I heard that practices were extra brutal last year because everybody kept playing for me instead of for team. This year, I'm seeing that everybody's playing for each other. So that's a big plus for this year. I'm very, very happy about that. All right, let's run through tomorrow's games real quick before we get out of here, guys. I'll give you some quick predictions. Tonight's game, I still, even though Florida State is down to Florida, I still think that Florida State's going to win this game. Their offense, I don't know how Florida has put up 24 points in one half. That's crazy. I know Florida State has a better defense than that. I think they'll get it going, and I think Florida State gets the job done. All right, on to tomorrow's game. Georgia Tech. Of course, Georgia wins. I do think that 35.5 is way too much, so I would take the points on that. I still think Georgia wins comfortably. I'm not predicting a massive upset or anything like that. I'm taking Georgia by 20, 25 points, something like that. But Georgia Tech is fighting for a ball, all right? So they're fighting for something. They just went on the road and beat North Carolina. They are a decent team. By the way, Florida State just got the first down. Good call, Coach. So it's going to be more competitive than a 35-point blowout. They're still going to get blown out by 20, 25, but it's still going to be a blowout. Michigan, Ohio State. Ohio State favored by 8. If this were at Michigan, I'd probably take Michigan. This is going to come down to home environment. We've seen Michigan struggle on the road. We've seen Ohio State struggle on the road. So the fact that this is at the Horseshoe, I'm taking Ohio State. But I think Michigan is I know they've had a cupcake schedule of sorts, but they are better than people are giving them credit. I think they lose by a field goal, and it could be a last-second field goal, but I'm still taking Ohio State. South Carolina at number 8, Clemson. Clemson favored by 14.5. Well, last week, South Carolina put 63 on Tennessee, right? They're not a good road team because the week before they got blasted 38-6. And I think they get blasted again this week on the road to Clemson. And it could be a similar score. It could be 34-10, something like that. I don't think the game's ever in doubt. South Carolina is just a different team at home. And it's going to show again. They're going to get to a decent bowl, a better bowl. It's a step forward. And then next year, I think South Carolina is going to be even better. They might be fighting for that second spot. I thought they were ready this year. Not quite. They're still in limbo. Not here, but kind of right here. Next year, I expect them to be maybe right here. But I think Clemson makes it, 8 in a row? Is that what it's going to be, 8 in a row? For sure. And they cover. Louisville at Kentucky. I think Louisville goes on the road and beats Kentucky. Kentucky, for whatever reason, they've just lost their mojo. You can blame one of their losses on injuries, but the last couple of losses, you can't blame on injuries because they've been at full health, all right? So, no. Louisville goes on the road, and Louisville's been looking really, really good. I'm taking the Cardinals. Auburn at Alabama. Alabama favored by 22. Alabama takes care of business. Auburn is a terrible team, and they're going to miss a bowl. Wow. Auburn is going to miss a bowl. Go and get you a Luke Fickell or a Matt Rule or a Tom Herman, something. You had the money. Go get him. Why you got Brian Harsin, I have no idea. I have no idea why you got Brian Harsin. That was so stupid. That was a terrible hire. I knew it from the beginning. Don't do that. They're reviewing this interception. I'm not sure if he had possession before. Now, whenever the ball was in his hand, his foot was in bounds, but he didn't look like he had control. This should be incomplete, and it was ruled incomplete on the field. Excuse me, I thought it was ruled an interception. Number 9, Oregon at number 21, Oregon State. Slight upset. I'm predicting it. The Beavers take care of the Ducks and knock them out of the Pac-12 championship. Yep. Oregon goes on the road, and they get beat by Oregon State. It's going to be a close game. Oregon's a good team, but Oregon State is a better team than people give them credit for. They almost beat USC at home earlier in the year. Well, they get another chance, and I think this time they do it. I'm taking Oregon State over Oregon in the slight upset because Oregon's favored by 3. Iowa State at TCU. This could be closer than people think because TCU could be looking forward to the Big 12 championship. The spread is eerily small. TCU only favored by 10. Maybe they're expecting too much pressure. Maybe there's injuries. I don't know. This is a home game. I expect TCU to get it done. Even if it's only by a field goal or a touchdown, TCU wins that game. Michigan State at Penn State. Michigan State playing for something. Getting to a bowl. They're 5-6. They are one game away from getting to a bowl. I had them taking a step back, but I had them going like 7-5. So they took a bigger step back than even what I predicted. And Penn State's favored by 19. I think it'll be closer than that, but Penn State keeps Michigan State from getting to a bowl. Utah at Colorado. I'm surprised Utah is only favored by 29.5. Colorado's an all-time bad team. I think Utah wins by 40. Number 5, LSU at Texas A&M. LSU only a 10-point favorite. Watch out for the Aggies. They could most certainly pull the upset here. My official prediction, I'm calling it. Big upset. Big upset on the money line. Take Texas A&M, win you some money. I'm picking the Aggies over LSU, and LSU is going to go into the SEC championship with 3 losses. What happens if a 3-loss LSU wins the SEC championship? I don't know. Number 22, UCF at South Florida. I'm taking UCF all day. Now, the spread's 20 points. It's probably going to be worse than that because South Florida is 1-10. They're a bad team. Number 15, Notre Dame at number 6, USC. USC only a 4.5-point favorite. I'm picking another upset. I do think Notre Dame goes on the road and beats USC. Man, this is a home game for USC. There's a lot of Notre Dame fans in Southern Cal. They have a massive alumni base. They're going to send about 35,000 to the Coliseum. Notre Dame, another upset special. I'm telling you, the playoffs is going to be all chaos after this weekend. Number 10, Tennessee on the road to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt trying to get bowl eligible, 5-6. Can Vanderbilt pull the unthinkable? Well, guess what? Tennessee is only a 14-point favorite. I'm calling it again. Another crazy upset. Vanderbilt on a last-second field goal beats Tennessee and gets bowl eligible. And then Tennessee is sitting there 9-3 at the end of the season going, man, we went from national championship contender to 9-3. I'm telling you, that blowout loss to South Carolina is going to beat them again, and Vanderbilt is good enough to pull the upset. Next rivalry, Kansas at Kansas State. Kansas State favored by 11. I think Kansas State blows out Kansas. I think Kansas has lost their mojo, and it's just they're getting to a bowl, so they don't have to play for that. And Kansas State is playing to get the Big 12 championship, and I do think that's exactly what happens. Kansas State beats Kansas and gets to the Big 12 championship. Finally, the Apple Cup. Number 13, Washington at Washington State. Washington is favored by 2, and I'm going with the home team. Yet another upset. I think the Cougars of Washington State muddies up the Pac-12 championship picture because, remember, I'm also picking Oregon State to beat Oregon. I'm picking both of the states to beat both of the universities. Yeah, Washington State over Washington and Oregon State over Oregon. A lot of upset potential tomorrow, and I'm picking several. We'll see how it turns out, guys. It looks like, yes, that was ruled not an interception, and Florida State gets a field goal out of it. Let's see. John is talking about the ACC. Let's see. Pittsburgh at Miami. How Pittsburgh's only a 6.5-point favorite, I don't know. I would take Pittsburgh by 2 touchdowns. Miami's not a good team. I don't care if it's at Miami, at Pitt, on the moon. Pitt's the better team, and Miami doesn't have a good home field advantage anyways. They don't care about Miami right now. It's not going to be a good environment. I know Miami will be fighting for, trying to get to a bowl, but and Pitt's already going to a bowl, so it doesn't matter all that much. But I think Pitt ends the season 8-4, which I think was my actual prediction. I might have said 7-5. It was either 7-5 or 8-4. But they beat West Virginia, so I'm going for 8-4. There you go. And yes, Nebraska did beat Iowa. I did not see that coming, especially on the road to Kinnick. That's crazy. So if you had a premonition to bet on Nebraska and you laid money on the money line, you won yourself some money. You won yourself some money. How about that? Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy winner. If they win the remainder of their games, yes, absolutely, I do. I think if Caleb Williams and USC beats Notre Dame, we're talking Notre Dame, then they win the Pac-12 championship. I think that puts them in the playoffs. I think if USC gets to the playoffs, even if they lose in the playoffs, that's a wrap. Caleb Williams wins the Heisman Trophy. Think about it. USC goes from 4-8 to getting to the playoffs. Yes, Heisman Trophy coming to SoCal once again. Absolutely. So, literally, all you have to do, USC, are you listening to me? All you have to do is beat Notre Dame and win the Pac-12 championship, and you are in the playoffs. That is a fact. If that happens, Caleb Williams will win the Heisman Trophy. That's just how it is. Results of the poll before we get out of here. Will WU basketball make the big dance this March? 68% vote yes, 31% vote no. Smart audience, because it is a fact. West Virginia will make the big dance. We look like a much better team than we did last year. So there you go. There you go, guys. All right, that's a wrap, guys. We will be going live tomorrow for, I'm not sure how many rivalry games we're going to cover, but we're going to cover as many as possible because remember, this is the last week of the regular season of college football. Soak it in. That's why I'm watching Friday Night Football. Florida, did they block it? Ooh, that was close. That was really, really close. Really, really close. Yeah. Here's the thing, Hillbilly Skeptic. I'm not overhyping anybody. I think everybody is not great this year. I think all the undefeateds are beatable. I think any of the mid-tier could probably beat any of the undefeateds. I think everybody has taken a step back. I think overall the SEC is a better conference than the Big Ten, but I still think the SEC has regressed a little bit. Now the SEC East, they're much better than this year. The SEC West has regressed. I mean, LSU and Alabama have 2 losses. The 2 best teams in the SEC West, both of them have 2 losses. Ole Miss just picked up their 4th loss. Mississippi State has 4 losses. The SEC West is weaker than the SEC East this year. So overall, yes, the SEC has regressed. But conference versus conference, I would still pick the SEC. But overall, playoffs, it's anybody's game, guys. Anybody's. Nobody has separated themselves. All right, guys. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed yourselves. Hopefully, you were entertained. Shout out to everybody that watched. Everybody that hit the like button. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. Still helps the YouTube algorithm. Everybody that hit the super chat, appreciate you. Every donation helps, keeps us going. This is what we do every day, 7 days a week, 24/7, regular videos every day, and we basically do a live show every day. So we appreciate those donations. Keep them coming. That's what keeps us going. Let's go Mountaineers, but tomorrow's rivalry week, so enjoy your last team's last game of the season. Now, if you have a ball, then you have that to look forward to. As a West Virginia fan, we do not. So tomorrow, that is it. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Friday night, guys.